I saw her in the courtroom before anyone else did. She smiled. Not the small, tentative smile I once knew, not the kind that used to light up quiet mornings over coffee. This was a smile sharpened by rehearsed confidence, a mask that said I'm untouchable. And in that moment the world inside me fractured. I remember the first time I sensed it wasn't right, a subtle distance. The way her phone stayed close to her hand, even during dinners. The way she laughed a little too quickly at jokes I didn't hear, nothing concrete, nothing undeniable, just a faint, persistent itch at the edges of my mind. I brushed it off. Love makes you do that. Love makes you pretend you're not noticing. Then the night came, rain tapping against the window, the kind that makes the streetlights smear into soft golden puddles. I got home early, heart humming with anticipation. And there they were, her and someone else on our porch, close, familiar, wrong. I froze, her lips pressed to his. And in that kiss, everything I thought I knew about my life collapsed. The world slowed to a heartbeat, then a thundering echo. I didn't scream, I didn't move, I couldn't. The porch light cast long shadows across their bodies, but I didn't need light to see the truth. I knew. After that night, everything changed. The house became hollow. Every room echoed her absence even when she was there. Empty dishes piled in the sink. The bed felt colder, a silent accusation in the sheets. I spoke less, watched more. Tried to make sense of how someone I loved so fiercely could betray me with such calm assurance. We didn't talk about it. She didn't have to. The weight of unspoken words hung between us, suffocating, sharp. And then the court papers came. Divorce, custody, everything I'd once imagined as forever now written in legal ink. I walked into that courtroom with a fragile armor made of disbelief and simmering rage. She sat across from me, perfectly composed, whispering with her lawyer. Her eyes met mine once, just long enough for me to see the faintest flicker of triumph. The judge's gavel fell, a muted drumbeat against my skull. Then came the moment I will never forget. My witness. My closest friend, someone I trusted above all, stood and told the truth. Piece by piece, detail by detail, she laid bare every lie my wife had woven with such meticulous confidence. Each word struck like a hammer. The confident facade crumbled in real time. Her smirk faltered, trembled, then disappeared entirely. I remember the sound of silence after. It was louder than anything else, the soft hum of the courtroom's ventilation, the faint scrape of a chair, her breathing. She looked at me, eyes wide, vulnerable, frightened, real. I should have felt relief, satisfaction, something. Instead, I felt emptiness, because truth doesn't heal immediately. It doesn't erase the betrayal, the sleepless nights, the cold mornings. It only confirms it, and the ache, that quiet, unrelenting ache, was still there. As we left the courtroom, the rain had stopped. Streetlights shimmered on wet pavement, mocking in their beauty. She passed me without a word, and I realized something painful. Even now, I didn't know what I wanted: justice, closure. Or simply a moment when the ghost of us could disappear. I walked home, the weight of her lies pressing into my chest like wet cement. And in that quiet, I made a promise to myself I would understand, I would survive, I would bear this truth. But survival doesn't come quietly, it festers, it waits, and sometimes it speaks in echoes we cannot ignore. When I reached the apartment, her perfume lingered, subtle, familiar, mocking. I closed my eyes, and for a long moment I let myself remember the love, the warmth, the illusion. Then I opened my eyes, and the silence screamed. The apartment felt wrong without her. Even though she'd been here, she wasn't. Not really. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, a ghost I couldn't shake. It made me ache in ways words couldn't reach. I slept in fits, waking to the hum of the fridge or the muted traffic outside, disoriented. Every sound was amplified: the tap of water in the kitchen, the squeak of the radiator. Silence had weight now, and it pressed down on me, heavy and accusing. Her laughter lingered too, not the laughter I knew, soft and playful, but the echo of her confidence, the kind that used to fill rooms and now only haunted them. I hated it, and yet I missed it. I didn't reach out. I didn't know what I could say, or if saying anything would undo what had been done. Then the traces started appearing. Little things at first: an acquaintance mentioning she'd been out with someone, a photo on social media she thought I wouldn't see, her name in texts I wasn't supposed to read. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just observed, silent, careful, like a man circling a wound, afraid to touch it but unable to look away. And then came the worst part: imagining him. The man she kissed on our porch, the man she'd chosen over what we had. He didn't appear directly, just in fragments. A name whispered by a friend, a casual comment in conversation, the flash of a familiar jacket on the subway. Each hint sharpened the ache, a jagged knife twisting quietly in my chest. I found myself replaying their moments in my mind: the porch, the kiss, the certainty in her eyes. The world had moved on for her while I was left in fragments, trying to piece myself together. Some nights I wandered the streets near our old neighborhood. Streetlights puddled in rain-soaked asphalt. Windows glowed with domestic warmth. I wondered which of them she'd been with tonight. Did he make her laugh the way I used to? Did she tell him our jokes? Did she ever think of me? I told no one. No one needed to hear the pain I carried. It was mine and hers. Mine because she had taken something I couldn't retrieve. Hers because she had chosen it. Yet amidst the grief, something stirred, quiet, subtle but undeniable. A small resilience. The first time it flickered was when I received an unexpected message. "Did you see me in court?" It was from my old friend, my witness, the one who had exposed her lies. Their words weren't meant to console, they were a lifeline. A tether back to reality when I felt myself sinking. I didn't respond immediately. I sat in the dark, the weight of my own heartbeat deafening. Then the second flicker, a sighting, her across the street. Laughing with him, arms entwined like nothing had happened. My chest constricted and I realized something terrifying. I still loved her. And that love wasn't gentle, it wasn't rational. It was sharp and raw, a wound that refused to heal quietly. I wanted to hate her, I tried, but hatred is heavier than grief. Hatred requires energy I didn't have, so I let it live quietly in the corners, an ember beneath the ashes. Days blurred into nights, nights blurred into silent mornings. I walked past cafes where we had shared coffee, past streets where we had walked together, hands brushing lightly, a secret language of touch. Everything reminded me of what I'd lost, of what I'd been denied. And then came the turning point, a message, not from her, not from him, from someone entirely unexpected. "I know what he did, I can show you. If you want." My hand trembled as I read it, my chest tightened, but it wasn't just pain this time. There was a pulse of something else, anticipation, curiosity, a spark of agency in a life that had felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I didn't know what I would see, I didn't know if I could handle it, but I knew I couldn't ignore it, because grief had its rules, but truth demanded confrontation. I realized as I stared at that message that the game wasn't over. It had only just begun. And somewhere deep down, a quiet, unspoken thought took root. Maybe, just maybe, the scales were about to shift. The doorbell rang at 10 p.m. I didn't answer immediately. My hand hovered over the lock, heart hammering, mind spinning. The sound was familiar, too familiar. When I finally opened it, there she was, rain-damp hair clinging to her face, eyes wide, haunted. Clothes slightly disheveled, like she'd walked through storms both outside and inside. The confident mask from the courtroom was gone. In its place, raw vulnerability. I need to talk," she whispered. I stepped aside. Let her in, though every instinct screamed to close the door, to slam it on the ghost of us. She didn't sit immediately. She leaned against the doorway, shivering, fumbling with her hands. Her voice broke. I made mistakes. Horrible mistakes. I studied her, the lines on her face, the quiet tremor in her hands. She looked small, human, fragile, not the woman who had smiled at me across that courtroom with unshakable confidence. "I saw what you wrote in court," I said softly. "I heard everything from them." My voice barely rose above a whisper. The rain outside tapped against the windows, a soft drum of inevitability. She nodded, eyes brimming. I lied. I lied to everyone, to you, especially you." We sat in silence. The clock ticked. The apartment felt heavier than ever. Her presence didn't bring warmth, it brought memory, and memory is dangerous. I don't know why I came here," she admitted finally. "I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't know if I forgive myself." I didn't answer, I couldn't. Words would have betrayed everything, love, grief, rage, all mixed into one sharp edge that could cut either of us. She moved closer, tentatively, as if testing whether I was a shelter or a threat. I thought I could have it all," she said. "Him, you, my life, and I ruined it." Her hands shook, her gaze dropped. And in that moment, the entire truth was visible. The woman I had loved, the woman who had hurt me, was broken by the same choices I had suffered from. I wanted to reach for her. I wanted to tell her it was over, or that it could never be over. I wanted to scream, to cry, to dissolve into every feeling I'd held back for months. Instead, I said quietly, deliberately, "You can stay, but just for tonight." It was a surrender. Not to her, not to love, but to the moment, to what we once were and what could never fully be again. She sat, careful not to touch me, our knees almost brushed. I felt her warmth, but it didn't ignite the old comfort. It only reminded me of absence. She looked up, eyes searching. "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "I don't know, I'm tired of hate, I'm tired of anger, I'm tired of wanting something I can't have. I just want to understand." Her fingers twitched. She wanted to reach for mine, then stopped. She wanted to say something more, then swallowed it. We talked in fragments, pauses heavy with the weight of unspoken words. Every confession was a dagger softened by guilt, every silence a mirror of everything we had lost. "You lied so well," I said at one point. "I trusted you completely." Her lips trembled. "I know, I didn't just lie to you. I lied to myself." The night stretched on. Outside, streetlights flickered against wet asphalt. Inside, we sat in the muted glow of the living room lamp, two people who once shared everything, now strangers stitched together by memory, remorse, and fragile hope. She finally fell asleep on the couch, curled up as if the world could crush her and she'd survive it this time. I watched, heart aching. Love and pain entwined so tightly I couldn't separate them. I thought about the future, about letting go. About what justice truly meant. And for the first time I realized forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. Love doesn't always mean holding on. Some truths are too sharp to embrace. I left her there, sleeping in her remorse, and went to the window. Rain had returned, tapping against the glass like quiet confessions, and I understood in the marrow of my bones that tomorrow might not bring peace. But tonight, we were suspended between grief and understanding. Morning came slow. Sunlight crept through the curtains, soft and forgiving. It touched the edges of the room, painting everything in pale gold. She was still on the couch, curled into herself like a question I didn't have the answer to. I made coffee. The aroma filled the kitchen, ordinary and grounding. For a moment I imagined her beside me, reaching for the mug, smiling. But the thought passed like smoke, beautiful, fleeting, impossible. She stirred, eyes opening slowly, bleary, unsure. She saw me and flinched as if I might vanish. "I should go," she whispered. I nodded. No words, none were needed. The apartment smelled of rain, coffee, and the residue of a night heavy with confession. She dressed quietly, every movement careful, every gesture hesitant, as if stepping into a world she had already broken. Before she left, she looked at me, really looked. Her eyes begged for forgiveness, for understanding, for something I couldn't fully give. I'm sorry," she said, voice breaking. I said nothing. Instead, I stepped to the doorway and held it open. Not as a gesture of welcome, but of release. She paused, one last look, then she walked out. Rain had returned, pattering softly, washing the streets clean, or maybe just masking the stains. I closed the door behind her and leaned against it, chest tight. Silence fell over the apartment, the kind of silence that carries both grief and relief. I sat in the living room, watching the light move across empty furniture, listening to the faint hum of the city outside. She was gone again, but this time it felt different. I thought about love, about loss, about the fact that some pain never fully disappears. It lingers like a shadow in sunlight, but I also thought about myself. The quiet strength I'd discovered in grief. The clarity that came from watching her face the consequences of her actions. The peace that didn't demand reconciliation. I realized something essential: I could forgive her without forgetting. I could love without holding on, and I could live finally with the memory of what had been without it controlling me. She had left twice, once with him, once with her choices. And now once more when I finally let her go. The sunlight shifted, it touched the floor, the walls, the empty couch. And for the first time in months, I felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by something quieter, steadier, something like hope. The world outside hummed on, life continued. Rain fell and dried, and I realized I could continue too. I poured another cup of coffee. The room smelled warm, alive, and I let myself breathe, because letting go doesn't erase the past, but it makes space for what comes next. And that was enough. And that was enough.